Just think of it as the rough draft of the podcast world. This is the Newbie Writers Podcast with your hosts Damien Boat and Catherine Bramkamp.
Good morning, and I know it's morning because I'm still half asleep. It is episode 143 of the Newbie Writers Podcast, and I think it's quite fitting what we're talking about today. We're going to talk about how to deal with multiple projects. Is that what you said to me, Catherine?
Yeah, it is what I said to you, and you didn't fall asleep as quickly as you thought.
No, I think the tea is kicking in.
Yay! You
know how I think last show I said, I apologise if I sounded a bit sniffly. Yeah, I think I nearly died by Tuesday.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that, too. That's such a bummer.
Look, here's the thing. My boy, my 5-year-old, has had the proper flu. It was confirmed, right? So that means he's highly contagious. Now, me being a typical Australian bloke, I am an idiot. Well, actually, no, we use a proper Australian term. I'm a dickhead, let's be honest.
Let's use the right terminology.
Yeah. So I was feeling a bit off Monday afternoon. Tuesday morning, I couldn't get out of bed, and I forced myself, like staggering out, and I went to work and lifted 75-inch TVs up 3 flights of stairs till lunch. And, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so I'm thinking dickhead works.
Yeah,
in that
basically.
Situation.
So it got to, lunchtime.
Oh, my God.
My contractor's looking at me like, what is your problem? So I think I need to see a doctor. And, yes, I was bedbound then for the rest of the week. So thank you for that. Thank you for having the flu, you bastards.
You poor guy. Well, thank you for not giving it to me, so I appreciate that.
Oh, look, stranger things have happened.
Yes.
So.
I got a cold from you once. No, I think that we can actually share germs across the internet.
Look, it's the way technology is going. We just need smell-o-vision to be a reality, and then we're good.
There you go. I don't know if I really want smell-o-vision, though.
Why not?
I don't know, because I see some really disgusting films, and I'm thinking, no, I don't really need to smell that.
True.
It's not relaxing.
And I reckon it would blow out all those cooking shows, too.
Yeah. No, the cooking shows would be great. I could do a cooking show, and then when Andrew came home from work, it would smell as if I had been cooking.
And then he's got the takeaway under his arm, and he'd be like, how did that work?
That's right.
Anyway, look, we have a special guest on today. We have Suzanne Lakin on. Good morning.
Hi. Well, it's almost evening here in California, but, well, hey, whatever.
Yeah, just go with it and say good morning. That's what I do.
Yeah, good morning.
Yeah.
Good day, mate.
Hey, don't you start. G'day, mate.
Yeah, I heard you say mate earlier. Sorry.
Yes, but I can't help it. It's like a disease.
Okay.
There's no antibiotics.
It's not a disease, it's charming.
No,
we think it's charming.
There's no antibiotics for g'day, mate. I wish there was. So yeah.
I'm thinking I need
the curse of the crocodile Dundee.
I know, the bane of his existence. I'm thinking I want to create a character with your accent. So I think in my third Future Girl book, I need an Australian.
Right. So you didn't like my feedback on the second one, and then you're going to try and get bad feedback. Is that the idea?
No, I think I'm going to try to get even.
Right. Well, I'm lost for words. What can I say?
That's okay. I think Suzanne and I have plenty of words to pass around.
All right. Well, while I'm sipping my tea and trying not to cough a body part up, what are you going to talk about? I see I labelled this show Shoot Your Novel because I noticed that's one of your releases there. What an interesting title for a book. Shoot Your Novel.
Well, actually, I'm going to put it out this fall, but it's a compilation of last year's year-long blog course on my blog. So all the material is pretty much online. But, yeah, it's a very unique concept that I came up with that I'm just surprised that nobody has ever written about. So if you're interested, I can share that.
Oh.
Yeah, I am. Tell me a little bit about the idea. I love the title, which is always good to do something really snappy or,
Right.
If you do a book trailer, you can shoot.
I was raised in television and the TV industry. My mother was one of the pioneer screenwriters, producers, story editors. She was the first woman story editor in Hollywood.
Oh, that's cool.
On the Writers Guild board, and was up for lots of different awards and things like that. Created lots of series for TV. She was one of the top movie of the week writers in the 70s when there was only one movie of the week.
Wow.
each week for a new movie, on the major networks. So I grew up reading a lot of screenplays, and my brother went into screenwriting and producing too. He produced Dallas, and my mom did Peyton Place, and she did a million other things. They're all on IMDb if you want to look them up. But anyway, long story short, so I did a lot of reading as a kid, and I was told not to become a writer, but I loved writing anyway. It was in my blood, but I was highly influenced by scripts. I read a lot of scripts. My mom's office would be full of scripts, so like all the Mod Squad scripts, I just read them all. So my diet of reading was really heavy on the screenplays and shooting scripts. So I think it influenced my writing a lot when I started as a writer back when I was a preteen, writing short stories, and then getting into novels later on. But what I became aware of as I got more into writing novels and teaching about writing and reading a lot of writing books and attending writing conferences, that nobody talked about using a cinematic approach to writing fiction, and I just was shocked. Being that we live in this era, which like Donald Moss mentions in his book, The Fire in Fiction, that 21st century readers, being influenced by TV and movies, want to see scenes played out, like as if on the screen. They want to see action happening, and we're all about show, not tell. Yeah. And yet writers are told to show, not tell, but they're not told how. And so my whole take on this is that you really have to understand how movies are put together, because if you look at a movie scene, it's a series of segments of camera shots. Okay. And when you sit down to write your novel scene, like you personally, you probably don't sit down and go, I wonder what series of camera shots I need to use to shoot this scene. But what I try to teach in my workshops and through this book and through my blog is that writers should exactly do that. They should be thinking in terms of breaking down how they're going to structure their scene in a series of camera shots. They might start with a close-up, they might start with a long shot, they might pan across and angle on some specific person or item. They might, zoom in or pull back. There's all these different types of camera shots that you can use. And when you're a director and you're directing a scene, you have to plan all that out ahead of time, because you're giving instructions to the cameraman. Where are you going to start with the camera, and where are you going to end up with the camera? What is going to happen in the scene? It's all done visually. And so what I do in my book and on my blog is take each camera angle or shot and show how that's used in screenplays. And then I give examples of different various novels, popular novels, best-selling novels, with writers that are excellent at showing, not telling. And then I went through and I just found dozens and dozens and dozens of scenes that would showcase these various camera shots, and then the combination of camera shots, pulling back to reveal something. So it's really fascinating that people who begin using this technique and start thinking in terms of shooting their scenes with camera shots, their writing changes drastically in a good way. Yeah, so it's really fun.
Could you give us an example of how that, just maybe if you've got something off the top of your head, how does that look? Because again,
like for instance, when I'm teaching my workshop, for instance, I'll use an example like from one of my books. What I emphasize is that for every scene has to have a point, and there should be a high moment, a reveal in every scene, and if not, you should throw it out. There should be a point to every scene in your book. And the problem that I see in critiquing 200 manuscripts a year is that the majority of the scenes don't have any point, and I don't know why they're in the book, and they shouldn't even be there.
Because we're in love with our words. Come on.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And I don't even think people are in love with their words. I don't know what they're thinking. But
word count. Sometimes word count.
Yeah, it's just word count.
Just, spew it out. But yeah, so what I try to get people to think about is figuring out what their high moment is and then how they want to show that high moment and then build to it. For instance, in my fantasy book, The Crystal Scepter, I have a very key scene in which this old fisherman finds a trunk floating in the bay, and he opens it up, and there's a baby in there, okay? So I know what my high moment's going to be in that scene. I know my high moment is going to be the moment he opens that trunk and he finds the baby, right? You can picture that. I picture that as a close-up. The camera's going to come in really close. He's going to open it up. He's going to find some stuff on the top, a bag of jewels, and then all of a sudden, oh my gosh, there's his baby, and he's going to be 3 inches, extra close-up from this baby's face. Okay, so I pictured this camera shot. Then I had to work my way backwards. I'm thinking, I wanted to start the scene introducing this character because he's very important. This is his opening scene. It's like you would have him in a movie, and I want to show him coming from his cottage on the beach to check his fishing nets in the bay, and that's where he's going to find it. So you can see there's going to be a lot of camera shots in here, and I had to decide, well, how did I want to open? I could have opened with a close-up of his hands untangling the fishing nets after the big storm to show this mess, and that would be right in the middle of action. But then I thought I really need to set up some of his past and the fact that a year ago it was his fault. He was drunk. His son fell overboard on the boat and drowned. So he's living this horrible grief of having been responsible for the death of his son. So I thought it would be better if I start him off at his cottage and then bring him past the gravestone marker on the way to the beach. He could feel this grief. So again, I've got this. So I start with this shot, which is sort of an establishing shot, which is what you use in film, which is to establish the setting, and then you move to like following him, panning down the beach, and then bringing him to this gravestone, and then getting him to the harbor where he untangles his nets, he finds the box, and then zoom in on the close-up. So I break it all down and just showing how these different segments are actually camera shots, and depending on the camera shot, it will determine how much detail is being shown. If you're doing a close-up of somebody's hand to show them holding something, you're not going to see a guy across the room and 5 people outside the window of the restaurant.
Okay.
If you're going to pull back and show a bigger scene, like if you've got a character at a table with his family in a restaurant having a graduation dinner, and he's going to look around the restaurant and see what's going on, hear the noise, see people laughing and having a good time, you're going to have a bigger, wider angle for that camera shot. But you choose these shots very deliberately. The problem with too many writers is they think, oh, I got to write this scene where this and this happens, and then they just sort of start writing with dialogue and then kind of let it go at once, and it's just not organized, and it doesn't have the punch that it would have if the writer took the time to first set up the scene, figure out what's the high moment, how do I build to it, what is it going to look like, how can I give it the biggest punch. And so I give a lot of examples, in my blog and then in this book, of course, when it comes out. I just think it's a technique that writers should be aware of, that these tools they can put in their toolbox, but very few writers really think in those terms, and I think they need to, because it makes for much more dynamic writing.
And your readers are attuned to that, and so there is something to be said. I've just noticed that very popular books, the bestseller books, you pick them up and you read them and you say, wow, I really burned through that book pretty darn fast because all of the words are short, all the sentences are short. It's written for a much lower level reading comprehension. And that makes me crazy, right? However, if that's the reality, and if that's what will help make a book sell, maybe we need to think about that and not be so like, oh, I need to have everybody who reads my book has to read it at 12th grade level. Maybe that's not how we should be approaching it. And perhaps that's also what you're looking at with new writers, is that they're saying, this is a book, this is going to be really, really different than, a movie, which sometimes we say, oh, that's just a movie or that's just television. But we're competing with that, so we need to look at what they're doing right in that medium. And if we can, as what you've pointed out, apply it to our medium, we will meet with success.
Right. But I think you're talking about something completely different about dumbing down the writing, which I'm kind of in opposition to what you're saying. I don't believe in doing that at all. But there is something to be said for a lot of novels that, like for instance, Dean Koontz and other popular writers do a huge amount of dialogue, and it's very present, active. like you're watching a conversation. But there's so many different styles. It depends on the genre. It depends on your plot. No matter what genre you're writing in, you can be more cinematic. I mean, you could have two people sitting on an island, deserted island, stranded, and all they do is talk the whole time. But you could be creative with your camera angles to the point where you could probably make it fascinating if you really worked at it, you know. So anything that you have can be made much stronger and more powerful, more dynamic, more emotionally invoking by using camera technique. And also in the book, I don't just talk about camera angles, but I talk about, you know, all the aesthetics of, you know, laying out your scene, like angles, camera angles, like if you're shooting from below looking up, or, you know, there's just all these different types of, you know, colors, shapes. These are all very symbolic in film. So yeah, so there's lots of different components to being using cinematic. Like, sorry.
Yeah.
This is the afternoon, and I need some tea.
Right. I think that's great, and that'll be coming up in that'll be available in the fall, correct?
Right. Yeah. It's already, and I just have to put it out, get the cover done, and interior design and all that stuff.
Well, let's talk about that, because that was my main, the main thing that struck me when I was reading your, you know, all of the projects that you're working on. You have many projects all going on simultaneously. What are you working on, and how are you managing all of that?
I think, let me preface this by just saying I've been writing novels for 30 years. I'm a really fast writer. So when I say I write 2 novels a year, that just horrifies a lot of people when they think of all the other things I'm doing. But I write really fast. So when I do sit down to write, I can whip out a novel in 2-3 months.
Cool.
And because I'm an editor, I edit as I go. So it's like Dean Koontz. I'm usually done. When I'm done, I'm finished. I just do a proofread and I turn it in or publish it or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just one thing that's on my plate. I do work full-time as a copy editor and writing coach, and I critique and edit more than 200 manuscripts a year. So I do that full-time because I have to pay bills and make a living. But I've also been putting out writing craft books. I put out my Say What grammar guide this year, and I put out Writing the Heart of Your Story. But keep in mind that these are compilations from my blog posts. So having a blog that's informational is really nice because it serves a twofold purpose. I have to blog 3 times a week, and it takes a tremendous amount of work and effort and dedication to write really great content and to put out a really thoughtful blog and respond to all the blog comments and all that. But I can take that material and then rework it into books and then put them out, release them. So that's what I'll be doing with Shoot Your Novel. And then at the end of this year, when I finish with the 12 key pillars of novel construction, I'll just rework that into a book and release that in a couple months after the end of the year. So that's that's another thing that I do. But I mean, in the meantime, I try to have a normal life, and I hike and backpack, and I have a husband and a dog and 3 kitties, and I am now babysitting 2 days a week, so that makes it kind of crazy too. I just figure I don't really sleep that much, and I try to really plan out my time extremely efficiently. I have a virtual assistant that works for me a couple hours a week that does all my book promotions.
Okay.
I've moved into that. I have a lot of editors on my team that I farm out and subcontract a lot of my editing, my content editing, and now some of the proofreading and some of the critiquing.
Okay.
So I kind of work that out. And my biggest problem is I really have had a lot of struggle trying to figure out a schedule that works for my type of brain.
Okay.
In terms of writing.
Yeah. So how are you doing that? Because I mean, just like what does the day look like where you're maximizing your best creative time?
Exactly, and I think that's what writers really need to think about. I have a friend who writes a book or 2 a year by 55 minutes on the BART to San Francisco and 55 minutes back every day.
Wow.
I just can't do that. I can't get my brain into high gear that quickly. I've sort of trained myself to be able to write anywhere. I never used to be able to do that with any noise at all. I had to have complete quiet, but I've kind of trained myself to go to Starbucks and try to write. And I used to only be able to write in the mornings when I was fresh, but because of necessity, I've had to learn how to write at 11 o'clock at night if I need to. So what I find, there's two ways that I can do the writing. If I, like right now, I need to finish this fantasy book, my book 7 in my series with Living Ink Publishers. It's more than a year late.
Oops.
And I'm trying, I know, it's really bad. It has a release date of this coming winter 2015, and we've already done the marketing copy, and the cover is getting done. So I really have to finish it. But I'm 80,000 words in, so I know I'll get it done this month. So what I've been trying to do, I've set aside a couple months to write, just taking on only one job a week instead of like 4 or 5. And so what I've told myself is I'm going to, every morning I'm going to wake up and write one scene, however long that takes. I don't do word count. I hate word count. If you've read any of my blog posts on it, I'm a total enemy of counting words. I think it's horrible. I think it makes writers only care about quantity and not quality. So I just set up for myself to write one scene a day. So like I didn't do it this morning. I couldn't because I was dealing with trying to figure out how to load Skype onto my computer.
we kept you busy all day.
Unfortunately, no, not all day, and I was babysitting. But like for instance, tomorrow is normally the day I write all my blog posts that I need to catch up on because I'm not very far ahead. But I will spend the first part of tomorrow morning writing a scene. And once I have a scene written, even if it's a little rough, I can say, good, I'm done. So if I just write one scene a day for every writing day the rest of this month, I will finish that book. And then next month, I'm going to start seriously plotting out my second historical Western romance that I already have kind of a general idea of the plot. That usually takes me a week of heavy plotting and character development. And then I can do the same thing. I write one scene a day, and then within 2 months, the book is done. Okay. So it's just a matter of just, butt glue and steady, determination. And, steady. I don't know how I get so much done. I think I'm just super productive because when I do sit down to write or write a blog post or edit, I just like jump in there and I do it. Sit around.
Do you also turn off? Do you make sure that you're not getting distracted with email, not getting distracted with the with internet? Because I think sometimes when we sit down and we are in front of a screen, anything that we do while we're sitting in front of our computer screens, quote, counts, unquote, as work, when actually we're just messing around. Do you try to make sure you divide yourself out from that?
With this, I really should get that program that's like write or die. That's one of the websites, where like if you don't keep writing, there's another program that will actually block you from being able to go online, go on the internet, surf the internet, or check your email. I think I need that program too, because I'm really easily distracted. And the best writing that I usually do is if I'm somewhere like in the mountains, away from. There's no way I can connect to the internet. Because I check my email all the time. It's really neurotic. I probably check my email every 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Or it alerts me. Just because I have so many clients, I'll have like 50 ongoing clients, and they'll write me, and they'll try to like schedule or ask me a question, or somebody wants to hire me. I don't know. I just have it's bad. I need a therapy. I think there should be a therapist that specializes in helping people to resist the internet. I don't know. It's
like a tech. We have a tech ADD.
Yeah, it's bad. But when I'm in the zone and I'm writing a good scene, I'll work on the scene. I won't go check my email.
Yeah.
But often when I'm doing little piddly things like working on a blog post or looking for a picture to put on my blog, I get distracted by something and go veer off. Yeah. Albuquerque, Yeah, so I really think it's bad, and I'm bad about it. And sometimes I try to make myself promise, like, I love the reward thing. I think there's that one, there's another website somebody recommends that you get a reward if you keep writing for an hour. You get like bunnies or kitties, like I love kitties or something like that.
Oh no, that works because I do a reward. I do a combination of reward and cheating that gets me going. So I cheat on myself. So I give myself this broad. I'll say, okay, I just finished editing a book that the one that Damien and I were talking about, where he was a beta reader, came back with it and said, okay, that sucked, and I said, okay, thank you.
Yes.
So I'm doing the third draft, fourth draft, and I'm going to send it to a line editor next. And I create a calendar. It's like, okay, I'm going to do chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, and put it on the days that I'm going to do this. Then I know I can do it faster, so then I can cross those out at a higher rate. And it's hugely emotionally satisfying, and it keeps me going. And sometimes you have to create something for yourself.
Yeah, I have a web program that I use, which is basically a contact management program. So I have all my contacts in there, all my clients, and it has a Google Calendar, and I put everything on the calendar. And I try to keep my calendar fairly loose so that I know that I've given myself a lot of extra time. So usually I do finish the project sooner than I think, and then I can start in on the next project, and then I delete them as I go. And I love it when the calendar starts emptying out for the month.
Yeah.
So rewarding is good. Or if I finish a scene, I let myself go get an ice cream or something like that. You know? It's always good reward for behaving. It's just like, we don't have our parents anymore, like standing over our shoulders with the whip saying, you got to do your homework or else you're not going to get dinner. I feel like I need somebody to do that. I probably could use an accountability partner that says, okay, you have to stay off the internet for 2 hours, write 2 scenes, and if you do that, I will reward you somehow.
Or just, I have found with clients, just knowing that I am going to call them on a certain time and say, so how's it going, that too can be very motivating because they have to have an answer.
Well, having an accountability partner too is very helpful. I did that with one novel, one of my fantasy novels. I had a friend, Kathy, and she was writing a novel too. She writes mysteries. She's got similar kind of mysteries that like you write.
Oh, okay.
So she would send me 1 chapter a week, and I would send her 1 chapter a week. And we were both editors, so we would edit each other's stuff and critique it. Cool. And we pretty much got through the whole book by doing that, by sending a chapter a week to her, which was really helpful. And, it's amazing. If you just write 10 pages a day, you can finish a book in 30 days. I mean, a nice big thick book in 30 days.
That's kind of the nano challenge too. National Novel Writing Month is you can crank out 50,000 words in a month. I've done it multiple times.
Oh yeah, that if all I had to do was write all day long, I could write a book a month without even thinking. In fact, I might even get into doing that at some point if romance keeps selling as well as I see it selling, then I'm just gonna maybe just write Western romances for the rest of my life. It's fun, I'd like to find a way to get my husband to be able to quit work and retire. So he's really good at plotting, and I said, look, honey, why don't you just start helping me come up with characters and plots, and you can help me research all the historical stuff.
Oh, there you go.
Be a little team, and we could travel around and
go to the sites and soak it in and make notes. That would be
might just dream. We read about this couple that had quit their day jobs and they wrote romance novels for 6 months, wrote 20 romance novels and put them out, and they're filthy rich now.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, but it would be fun. But I'm not. Yeah, so right now I'm just trying to get through these 2 books that I have to get written this year, and then I'm teaming up with one of my clients, which is going to be fun. I had this client that I did a critique for this year, and I just couldn't stop laughing. He's the most hilarious writer I've ever read. And so he's excited. We're going to write the menopause murders together. He's going to do the husband's point of view scenes, and I'm going to do the wife's, the one that's going through menopause and killing all these people. So, it's going to be a lot of fun. So we're already kind of doing chats on that and putting some notes together. And I always like to be about 3 or 4 projects ahead. Uh-huh. And that's another thing in terms of organizing. And this is something Jim Bell also, I remember him talking about in a workshop. He just keeps folders, and I have about 10 novel ideas floating around right now. So one I'm about to write, then I'm doing a series, so I've got 3 or 4 books already out that are requiring a sequel, and I haven't even started those. Mm-hmm. And then I've got other ideas, so I'm usually 2 or 3 books ahead. So while I'm finishing writing one, I might be plotting out another, and then 2 or 3 more, I might just be doing notes, just coming up with ideas and then sticking a note in the folder.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times you just get a crazy idea while you're driving down the road going, oh my gosh, I thought of a great scene for this book I want to write in 3 years from now. So you just stick that scene idea in the folder, and then at some point when you get ready to start really getting to work on that project, you've already got all these great ideas.
Yeah, I agree.
I've got
So what I'm
crazy idea.
do that too, and then you just and then if you have enough, I've been plotting out the third book in this 3-book series. When I go to that's my dog. When I go to the book, when I go to write, it's not this blank screen. You've got all these things to help generate, and that, of course, is hugely beneficial when you're starting out a project.
It also helps to have people that just kick ideas around with. I mean, I do that for my clients. I give them lots of ideas and suggestions, and they go, well, I mean, you know, shouldn't I like be paying you? I'm like, no. I mean, not paying for ideas, but it's like, I don't ever think anything wrong about me giving you ideas for your book or you giving me ideas for my book. I mean, it's just we brainstorm off each other and we come up with fun ideas. Like I'm just kicking around with Ed about the menopause murders. We're just hilariously laughing about all the crazy things that we can have and the kind of characters we can have and how, you know, silly stuff's going to happen. So just take notes and just throw them in the file, or we have Google Docs. We share Google Docs, and then just stick character ideas. I find it helpful to have different sheets for different things. So like I'll have sheets just for characters, character ideas, you know, about maybe I usually have 1 page per character just to jot notes down as I think of some quirk or some little historical thing that's happened in the past. And then I also will have a sheet just with themes or, you know, stuff like that. It just depends on the type of book I'm writing. But I find that just jotting lots of crazy notes and sticking them in there really helps me a lot. Even one-liners, I'll just come up with a funny one-liner. I have to use this somewhere. I'll hear somebody saying something really ridiculously goofy, and I'm thinking, I got to use that in this book.
Yeah, and I think that I read some, was it Dare Lara has a whole book called, you know you're a writer if, but one of her comments was that when you hear about, you're diagnosed with a terrible illness and your first reaction is, how can I use that?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and if your friend has a terrible illness, how can I use that too?
I try to get out of my cage like once a week and go to Starbucks and spend the day at Starbucks. I've been doing this for a couple of years. And I'll go to different places, and I just, I overhear conversations, I watch people, I look at people. There's a lot better places to go people watch, for sure, like crazy malls. Yeah. And, stock car racing, whatever.
Indian casinos.
Go weird places to, like, watch people. But for me, I just find it interesting to just watch people, listen to them, listen to how they talk, hear their funny way of speaking. Stuff like that.
Yeah, I like that.
Here's a thing. With I just want to throw in with the was it menopause murders? Can you please have the female character when she murders someone fan herself and go, "Oh, is it hot in here?" Because
the way I got this idea was I was at my writer's lunch and I had this really weird symptom, and nobody had it before, and we were talking about menopause, and I heard the funniest stories from some of these people. I thought, this is great. I should write a book about this. And then I was also concerned about cancer and ageism and other themes that I'm going to bring out too, even though it's going to be more like Kill Bill. But I went back home online and I, researched menopause online because I couldn't figure out this weird symptom that I had. My hands and my feet were getting numb. Oh. So, and then I found this article that said the 39 symptoms of menopause, and I thought, oh, holy crap, that's just crazy. And I thought, well, what if every time she gets a new symptom, she murders somebody? And the last symptom she's going to have is the short-term memory loss. So the very last thing's going to happen, she's going to forget she killed all these people. But by then she's divorced her awful husband and got a new job, a new career, reinvented herself. She's turned from mousy housewife into superpower woman, and this is going to be hilariously great.
But if she forgets, then she gets another symptom. She's like, I better kill someone. So instead of having 38...
done with the symptoms because, after 4 years on average it's done. But I have to do it in a smaller scope of time. But the thing is, her husband's the detective investigator on the case who's trying to solve all the murders. Oh. And he's going to get so sick of her, he's going to want to murder her. He's thinking, maybe I should copy some of this stuff that this serial killer is doing and see if I can murder my wife and get away with it. I don't know. It's going to get pretty funny.
So,
hopefully we'll get it done next year. And I'm not sure if we'll self-publish it. I know it could be a huge bestseller, but I'll have to see whether I want to self-publish it or try to push it through regular publishing.
Well, I was sitting here thinking with the, writing a novel out like a movie type concept, would you be able to get away with then, like if you've done that and you've released it, could you do then a behind the scenes novel? And you could have, hi, I'm Jeff. I played Al Gore in such and such. And you could have like
You mean
exploration.
a behind-the-scenes novel about a novel?
Yeah, so you could have the, look at that novel, but talk to the characters and find out, the old man was such a diva on set, or the extra that just wouldn't die properly in one of the scenes.
Well, a lot of writers actually have websites for their characters and have blogs that their characters do. So like their character will blog about their town and their situation, like right out of the book, which I think is kind of interesting too. I mean, I've even seen dogs do it.
I mean, if you were to do that though, would that put the what's the word I'm trying to look for? Because my brain is dead. Like you set up that your novel is, say if it's a fantasy novel that's the genre you're writing and you're selling to that market, would that diminish that if you then had this almost like comical version of that book? I mean, imagine seeing The Lord of the Rings and then you've got The Lord of the Rings behind the scenes. And Tolkien's gone, right. Frodo had such a drug habit during this.
Well, that could be really, really funny, and I think it could work really well with the menopause murders. But, yeah, I mean, I don't know what kind of readership would go after something like that, but it's a funny idea. It would be funny to have a book that was all outtakes and bloopers.
Well, yeah. Like, in your case, you had the...
That would be kind of funny, too.
You have the old man open the thing and there's not the baby in there, but something else, like cabbage. Or he drops it into the water and shit, cut!
Yeah, right. You can picture all these, take one, take two, cut. Yeah.
That would be funny, the extra scenes, the outtakes from the book.
And Suzanne, can you close your emails, please?
Can I what?
Can you close your email program? I keep hearing it.
Like doing some kind of email thing. That was actually my phone that somebody sent a text message, and I just turned my phone off.
I could hear a ding.
So, yep. Because
I am notorious for leaving my email program on during the show, and I just want to prove that it's not me this time.
Okay. Well, I think it was my phone, but that's okay. My phone is sitting next to the computer. Yeah. So getting back to like multitasking and being productive, I think one thing I really want to say that I often say in my blog about success, and writers are under a tremendous amount of pressure trying to perform, succeed, feel okay about themselves, feel like they're producing, and just be, even I like get astonished and overwhelmed and jealous and freaked out when I hear about how much some of my friends accomplished, and I always feel like I'm not doing enough, so it's a workaholic mentality, and I just feel like if I could just say one thing to newbie writers is don't try to be like anybody else. Find your own rhythm, find what works for you. If you need to take 3 years to write a great novel, take 3 years. I went to the Book Expo in New York a few years back and heard of John Irving and another huge Pulitzer Prize winning author that I can't remember his name, but it was interesting. They both said it took them about 5 years to write a novel. And I was just astonished, and it kind of like, I felt like I was let off the hook, like, it was taking me a year to finish Conundrum because it was an autobiographical mystery, and it was very painful to write, and I kept thinking, this is taking me so long to write. But, so just, I just say writers should just take their time, do quality, not quantity, don't count words, and really learn the craft, take workshops, read writing craft books, and really apply these things. It just takes 10,000 hours is the understood amount to become an expert at anything. If you haven't read Malcolm Gladwell's book Outliers, it's fantastic, but it really proves that you really have to put in the time. You have to learn your craft. And what I'm seeing now, because self-publishing is so easy, I mean, I literally could write a short story today, put it online, make a cover, and sell it like within a day. What I'm finding a lot is clients they'll do a critique, they need to do a serious rework, but they really are in a hurry. They want to put the book out, they don't get it edited, they don't proofread it, they don't have the money, they just slap a cover on there and put it up there, and then it doesn't sell. And I really try to discourage them and say, look, this is your reputation, this is your pride, you shouldn't put anything out into the world that you're not absolutely proud of, and it's not the very, very best thing it can be. I'm proud of every single one of my novels. I love them all. I don't think I would change really anything in them. I'm really proud of them, and I feel all writers should feel that way about their work.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much for talking with us and wrestling with Skype. We've got a couple of other things that we always do. You're welcome to stay on with us while we do Word of the Week and Tortured Sentences, or if you need to take off, you're welcome to take off.
I probably will, because I have to get back to babysitting, which is
okay.
This has been a great joy. Thank you. It's wonderful meeting you, Damien.
And
Catherine, we'll have to get together for coffee since we're not too far away from each other. So,
and tell us again where our listeners can find you. What's the best place to hunt you down?
Well, my name is Suzanne Lakin, but I use C.S. Lakin, like C.S. Lewis.
Oh.
My stepfather's name was Lewis, so if I had taken his name, I would have been a C.S. Lewis, which would have been bad. Anyway, so cslakin.com is my author web page, but I don't really go there very often, and I doubt anybody else does. So my blog is livewritethrive.com. So write like writing, not write as in correct. And so on Live, Write, Thrive, you can learn all about me and my books and my editing services, my critique services. I also have critiquemymanuscript.com if you want to go directly to critiquing. And people can find me on Twitter and Facebook with C.S. Lakin as well.
Well, there you
Sounds good. Thank you again. I really appreciate you coming on and talking with us.
And all the links will be on the show notes, which I'll hopefully get up in the next few days. I think I forgot to put the show notes up for last week, but that's all right. It was just us, I think. Anyway.
It's okay.
Well, thank you so much, you guys. And,
it's our pleasure. I'm glad to have you on.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
All right. Well, it's probably a good time to talk about. We haven't, 100% fleshed it out, but we're lucky enough we signed up with Audible. So I do not have the notes in front of me, which suck. But if you go to audibletrial.com/newbiewriters and sign up for a trial account, you get a free audiobook. Now, I went there yesterday and I found The Book Thief, which I thought was kind of cool. I liked that movie. It was very good. I haven't yet to read the book. But I started to listen through some of the audiobooks. I'm going to play a little bit for you now. Listen to this.
Needless to say, I vacation in increments, in colors. Still, it's possible that you might be asking, why does he even need a vacation? What does he need distraction from?
I need a distraction from a lot of things, but how cool does that sound? That guy could read the phone book to me.
Which is why they have those jobs.
I know. I'd love to have a job like that, but I just don't have a voice for it. But yeah, check out audibletrial.com/newbiewriters. It helps us out a little bit, but it's more so the reason why I wanted to sign up for it is that we're a writing podcast, and hey, sometimes you can't read a book, so yeah, why not get a free one? Listen to it while you're driving to work. I thought it was a fitting thing. I don't like ads on podcasts typically, but I figured that this one was more of a fitting thing. It sort of fit in with what we're about. The last thing.
When you suggested it to me, I have friends in my book group who love Audible.com, and so when you mentioned that, I thought, okay, I've already had half a dozen people rave, so that's the other thing. It's a good program, and people love it, and they love being able to listen to books on their commutes.
Yeah, I just thought it was cool, to send people that like books to a place where you can get them, get a free one, because I thought, the last thing, if we get sponsored for something, I do not want to be sitting here going, thanks for listening to newbiewriters.com, and by the way, buy these pots and pans.
That doesn't really work. I have a link if you want to try Scrivener, which is my favorite program for writing books, and it's for the same reason. I can do that. I just can't do one that says, hey, do you want to promote our new vitamins? No, not really.
No. However,
no.
If someone, I don't know, Mercedes or something, wishes to give me a car, then I'm more than happy to have an hour-long advert. But that's fine.
That's different. We'll give people a heads up.
Yep. Will we?
I'll give them a heads up that you're driving a Mercedes. You bet.
Yeah, I probably couldn't fit in one. Plus, it's a bit of a girly car. No, that's
just the Mini is a girly car. Come on.
It is true. But yeah, check it out. I'll put the link on our website. So yeah.
Sounds good. So I brought you a word of the week. Do you want to? It's very quick.
Yes, word of the week.
Small word.
Arlene Miller comes from bigwords101.com. Izzard. It's a noun. Archaic name for the letter. Well, here's a debate. Z or Z?
So already we've given it 3 names.
Yes, well, it has to be Z because it rhymes with now I know my ABC.
That's right.
That's right. None of these.
That's right.
I hear that.
Z doesn't work. Z works if you're rattling off the Greek alphabet, and I do know that song as well. Then Z works a little bit better, except that that's not how you end the Greek alphabet. Never mind.
Moving right along. Is that all it needed was Eddie in front of it? You got a comedian.
Yes, that's what I thought too.
Anyway, should we do a prompt?
Let's do a prompt. So the prompt for today is, this is from me, Petersburg, this summer, and I realized that so much of our history has been told through the interpretation of the very well-off, the very rich. Mm-hmm. So what kind, because that's what we have left. We have big houses, we've got gold things, we have silver items. That's what lasts, and the wooden stuff doesn't last, so we don't know what the everyday life is like. So what kind of everyday artifacts do you think will tell your culture's story? So if someone dug up some of your favorite items and assumed that they were all intact, what would they assume about you? What would they assume about your culture?
Right, well, everyone would immediately think they've dug up like an iPad.
Yeah. But if they couldn't turn it on, what would they think?
They'd probably think, wow, such a clunky piece of machinery.
Or what a great chopping board.
Ha! Yeah. Imagine that. Oh, I don't know. Yeah, I think that's where people would lead to. But then we are such a disposable society that's working very hard on trying to recycle just to cut down on that massive amounts of throwing away. Mm-hmm. Would that stuff actually survive? I mean, you throw an iPad in the bin because it's faulty or cracked screen, that goes to a dump where it's crushed anyway.
Yeah, see where you went? I mean, it's an interesting starting point where you can start really thinking, all right, what are some of these options? It's a way of being, that's what prompts are for, it's a way of being really creative.
Yeah, is it egotistical to think occasionally, I should bury some things in the backyard and think maybe in 100 years' time someone would find it?
Yeah, well, Todd already thought of that.
Yes, right.
And it worked.
Well, yeah, but what would you bury in the backyard? Other than your husband.
I would bury, and this is why I'm still a fan, I would bury real books. I would bury real items, not necessarily electronic items, but maybe favorite artifacts, so that there's a sense of what was precious.
Mm. But you'd have to do it in a spot that you knew that you weren't going to, or someone else wasn't really going to, mess with, because
correct.
Like we've just had our backyard landscape, so we had like a bobcat digger thing here for 3 days, and I'm thinking if I bury something,
those fun though? Those are fun.
They are amazing, except for when the fence got in the way between that and the thing. But if you had that done, and I was sitting there going, God, lucky I didn't bury something in the backyard.
Right, like a body.
Yeah, the neighbour's dog. But yes. I don't know. I just think it's an interesting thing. I do think about this sort of stuff. What are people going to be digging up in 100 years' time or 1,000 years' time?
Yeah, I think that's a great way to start a science fiction story. That's a great thing to put into a science fiction story. What are people digging up? What do they think? You find bottles, you find bullets. What are we finding? Even now, I mean, my second house up in Nevada City, we dig up gold. I mean, we have gold scattered all over the place. It's in tiny little pieces, not worthwhile as far as that goes. But we dig up bottles and whiskey bottles and spoons and forks, and it is kind of interesting. It's like, all right, what was scattered around, old tin cups. That's what people find because that's lasts.
Yeah, I know, but I even think of that. and go, well, hang on. At some point, 200 years ago, someone, it might have been a campsite or whatever, they just threw them out and it fell off a horse, whatever. But then you had your house built. So that meant that there were tradesmen there with backhoes digging all this stuff up. Do they just not see that and just dump one pile from left to right? And
who knows?
See? The brain thinks about it. All right. Should we do a tortured sentence? Let's see. I've got the tune here. Next time, don't put the wrong emphasis on the right syllable. Tortured sentences. All right. Now, are you back?
I am back.
Well, tortured sentence. This one is looking for impacting content to share? Question mark. I don't get it.
I love impacting. I don't think it's a real word.
No, well, it might be. I get connotations of constipation, to be honest. Are you looking for constipation content to share? I am, actually. I was Googling that today. Thank you for the email.
I just think impacting, and I've seen impacting a number of times, and it's going to be one of those words, like hopefully, where if you just say it enough, we'll accept it. And I'm just on record that I don't know if impacting really is a good use of our language.
No, actually, speaking of spam, I've had numerous calls lately from overseas, from America, actually, because they're
Sorry about that.
Very clearly American. Are you guys really that desperate for work that you're now taking on the whole spam the world phone calls?
Oh, I don't know. We have Yahoo boys in the States now. Maybe.
Stop it. Just stop it. But I had someone ring me and go, hi, have you got a couple of minutes? I said, not really. I'm really sick. And he says, oh, sorry to hear that. I'd just like to talk to you about your website's Google ranking. Says, fantastic, go away. So, what a waste of
time. Yeah, they're just trying to make a buck and they don't know what they're doing. So I'm always trying to be nice to some of those callers just for the karma.
Nah,
that's why. Nah, Grumpy Cat says no.
I am way down the impacting karma chute.
No more impacting the content, huh?
No. Now, we're coming up to the shout-outs bit. I want to give a shout-out to the old man in the bank. Because yesterday, I think it was yesterday, I'd turned the corner, and so I could move around a bit. I thought, I'll go to the bank, do some business banking. Now, you remember, when I went to the doctors on Tuesday, he said to me, you are not to be around elderly people or those who have a low immune system because you have proper influenza and possibly pneumonia. You are very ill. I went, oh, okay. So when you're told that, where's the best place to go? The bank.
Because there's nothing but elderly people in line in the bank because everybody else just uses the drive-through.
Seriously, do you have drive-through banks?
Yes, seriously, we do.
What is wrong with your society? There's a prompt.
That's another show.
There's a prompt. What else can you add a drive-through to? Drive-through toilets. Wow, I'm shocked. That's going to ruin my morning. Now, yeah. So they're sort of automating a lot. So you walk in, you push a touch screen for what you want to do. It prints you out a ticket number, and that way you don't need to line up. You just get a ticket, and the speakers call out your number. Go to teller 3, 2, 1, and so I was number 129. I'm sitting there, and number 128 went up. I thought, cool, I'm next. I saw that person walk out. As they've walked out, this old man comes in, takes the ticket, and he just kept walking. And the teller's pushed the button, called my number, and he went straight up. And he went, morning, dear. And I'm standing behind him with my arms out, going, what? The teller next to him pushes the button and goes, and then you hear, could number 131 please step up? I'm like, great, I've missed my number now.
Oh.
And I stood, and I don't know, a little part of me became African American when the number 131 went up. I went, no, you didn't.
driving up doesn't seem so crazy now, does it?
No, it doesn't. And the lady behind the thing said, "Oh, is everything all right?" I said, "Well," and I get really angry when I'm sick.
Oh, sure, because we have no tolerance when we're sick.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, I have no tolerance anyway. And I said, "Oh, well, apparently my number doesn't mean anything." And so she sort of smirked. And this old guy, he would have been in about his 70s, and I tell you, I wanted to cough in his direction so badly. I don't care how old you are, that's just rude. Like, he just...
Or he's just not conscious of it, which is easy for me to say, but I would have been mad if they cut me off too.
Yeah, and then he had the gall to say to the woman, "Oh, you look well today." And I felt like going, I am a man of power right now. I carry in me the seed of destruction. Now cash my check.
And there they are.
Yeah. So anyway.
Oh, pretty good.
Yes. That's how low I was. I was plotting death and destruction against an old man that was clearly defenseless.
There you go.
But then I did feel bad.
That's a very good shout out. I like that.
Yeah, because I did feel bad that when I was in the chemist, this old man came to sit. He was sitting on a chair, and I just needed to sit down. And I was waiting for my scripts. I had no antibiotics in me, highly contagious. And I said to him, "Is anyone sitting here?" And he looked up and he says, "No, I'm all on my own."
Oh.
And I've gone, "Oh, well, not anymore." And but I said, "I might move the chair a little bit." I thought, great. I don't want to kill a nice man.
I know, and he's sad, so I'm glad you held off.
Yes, mind you. You'd have to be pretty alone to go and sit in a chemist to hang out, wouldn't you?
Yeah, you would.
All right. And as a final shout out to the person that gave me a review on Google+. I wasn't going to do this, but I thought, hey, I'm already down this garden path now. Thank you for your review. I appreciate the feedback. It's good to see that you pointed out the very crux, the very foundation of this show, and that's a casual conversation. And that if we cut the casual conversation out, we'd have a show that was 30 minutes. Okay. But that's not the point of the show. The show is to have a casual conversation that goes for an hour that talks about everything and a little bit of writing. So even though your review was tainted with shit, it was actually 5 stars. Thank you very much.
That is the risk everybody makes when they write a review for us.
It's all open to interpretation. It's good to see they had a problem with the very nature of the show. Apparently, if I had more concise notes, my conversations wouldn't just end. Now, who do you want to give a shout out to?
I'm glad Suzanne was on. She has been very supportive of me in the Twitterverse, and so I really appreciate that. And so you can follow her at CS Larkin.
Lakin.
Lakin, thank you. CS Lakin.
Which I mispronounced.
And you can follow me at C Bramcamp and tell me that I should learn how to pronounce all my guest names.
I know.
And that's all my shout-outs. I had a pretty mellow week. I was working on the sequel to Future Girls because I don't have my edits for Future Girls, so I just wrote another book about it. So, and you can, if you want, I'll send you the better first chapter so you can feel better about it.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'd also like to say thanks to Darren for covering my business for this week. And just as a little note, buddy, which I'll be talking to you on Monday about, if I can't do the job, don't then ring me and say, if you're out and about today, can you drop me stuff an hour away? Little oversight, my friend. That's all right. All right. Well, that'll do us. Now, do we have a guest on next week?
Not at this point, so it'll be either a surprise guest or we have. I have a couple of ideas for the next week's show, so we should be fine.
Cool. I don't know. We've got Valerie Koo from the Writers' Centre here in Australia coming up soon. We've got to book them in. I think we've given them a date. It's probably next week. Who knows? But
who knows? We'll figure that out. And we have Melissa Baker, who writes about relationships. Ooh, you're going to love that show. And she's coming up on at the end of the month.
Cool. All right. Well, I think that will do it for this week. So until next week, we'll see you then.
See you then.
Your book starts here on the Newbie Writers Podcast.